It is over, ladies and gentlemen. Snow White's theatrical run is mercifully coming to an end. Well, heading into this past weekend, it was only in like 300 cinemas. It could have even been worse than that over the past weekend. I'm recording this a little bit earlier, so forgive me if it's not quite in the 340 theaters it was in just this past week. I'm sure it's less than that, mostly because Disney is very much all systems go for next week's release of a Lilo and Stitch. They want to go ahead and put Snow White in the rearview mirror as quickly as possible, because now that we have the ability to crunch the numbers, it's an even bigger disaster than we thought it was. But yes, Snow White starring Rachel Zegler gets a digital release date. Yes, in physical and 4K, which I'm sure will just drive the hundreds of sales across the world, I bet. Disney said on Tuesday that Snow White, its live action update to the animated classic that stars Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, will debut on digital platforms beginning May 13th. Holy shit. So that's Tuesday. That is what, 2 days from now? No, I'm sorry. That's tomorrow. It's coming out tomorrow. Bruh. It is said that the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray and DVD packages will hit beginning June 24th. No date has been set for its landing on Disney Plus. Well, I mean, you can get it on digital platforms May 13th. Okay, yeah, so that's your buy or rent options. But yeah, it'll be on Disney Plus by the end of the summer. That's a virtual guarantee, because who the fuck is actually going to pay for this? This is just an atrocity, man. On May 13th, the pick will hit Prime Video, Apple TV, and Fandango at home. The digital and physical versions will include bonus content like bloopers, deleted scenes, featurettes, and a full-length sing-along version. Oh boy, I couldn't think of anything I want less outside of maybe a case of AIDS. The movie, which arrived in theaters in the U.S. on March 21st, saw a $42.2 million opening weekend. The worst opening weekend for Disney this year, but it's not for the Thunderbolts or New Avengers at this point in time, and not trying their damnedest, and a global box office take of $200 million, which actually, yeah, we got the final numbers on this one. Well, at least heading into the final weekend, $201 million. Yeah, it creeped over that 200 million mark, but it's not going to hit that domestically. Hell, it's not even going to get to that 204 that Box Office Mojo has for the Marvels. The biggest failure on Disney's books in a very, very long time. This one, directed by Mark Webb, cost a reported $270 million and endured reshoots, labor strikes, a fire on the set, what? Okay, and release date changes and candid comments by Zegler. Oh, that's one way that you can put it, but as Forbes has it detailed, okay, in quite a lengthy article, I was just wondering, now that we have the physical and digital release dates, how much money did this, how much money are they willing to admit that this film needed to make in order to break even? It was never going to hit those numbers, but we'll just see what the trades are talking about here. Okay, so according to an old adage, no news is good news, and media giant Disney is all too aware of this right now. Live-action remake of Snow White has barely been out of the headlines since the debut just over a week ago, but has only limped across the $100 million mark. Yes, filming was delayed by 2 years due to the pandemic, and no sooner the camera started to roll in 2022 when the movie's leading lady Rachel Zegler slammed the story of the 1937 animated classic. Oh, it's such a lovely walk down memory lane on this one. The film failed to cast a spell on audiences, with the total takings of $87.3 million in its opening weekend, 13% less than the forecast. $87.3 million full opening weekend. And by the end of its box office run, wouldn't even make that domestically. Holy shit, bro. It was clearly a sore point with, yes, producer Mark Platt's son, actor Jonah Platt, who, yeah, reacted angrily. No, he actually reacted accurately an Instagram comment chastising his father for trying to keep Zegler's political views out of the promotion of the film. God, that was so fun to talk about. Jesus. But let's read it. Let's read this deleted Instagram post, shall we, for posterity's sake, because we're doing now this post-mortem on Snow White. My dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie, for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract and get paid to do it for publicly, wrote Platt in the post, which was seen by the Hollywood Reporter before it was deleted. I've got it in one of my videos. It's there for the world to see still. Everybody has it archived at this point in time. This is called adult responsibility and accountability. Interactions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean that you're allowed to say whatever you want in the private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues in crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged. Doesn't really sound all that angry to me, but hey, if you're trying to still run defense for Rachel Zegler, who still has a career at the end of this, you do you, Forbes. According to Deadline, Snow White's box office is set to fall 68% in its second weekend. Oh boy, you wish. Okay, we'll just pull up those numbers once again, and we got 66%. 66%. With a 76% first Monday drop. Holy. So, okay, now that we have all the nostalgia out of the way, let's get down to that. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts. Let's crunch some numbers, shall we? In order to establish how much a movie needs to gross to break even on its first... it is first necessary to know how much it costs to make, and trail usually ends there. This is because the budgets of movies made in the United States are closely guarded, and the studios tend to combine the cost of all their productions and their overall expenses, and don't itemize how much they spent on each one. Movies made in the United Kingdom are an exception to this, and Snow White was one of them. So yeah, we can go ahead and, in fact, look under the hood for a moment. Studio filming there gets a reimbursement of up to 25.5% of their costs, provided that they spend at least 10% of the total in the UK. In order to demonstrate this to the UK authorities, studios set up separate companies for each movie that they make there, and they are obliged to file detailed financial statements which lift the curtain on everything from staff salaries and social security payments to the total cost of the movie and the level of reimbursement they received. The Disney subsidiary behind Snow White is called Hidden Heart Productions, in a nod to the shape of the latch of the Evil Queen's jewelry box in the animated original. The financial statements are filed in stages and starts during pre-production and goes on long after the premiere to give the company time to ensure that it has collected all of its bills and received the money from them. The Daily Mail reported in July 31st, 2022, that Disney had spent already $183.3 million through principal photography had just wrapped. Okay, so that was back in 2022. Wow, this film was already shot for the first time 3 years ago. Holy. Latest set of filings show that by December 31st, 2023, so a year removed from release, the total had risen to $269.4 million, forcing Disney to admit in its filings that the film was forecasted to be over the production budget. It brings the total cost, to around $300 million, because after the end of 2023, we've seen that, both Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot posted pictures of them going back for reshoots. So, long story short, this is north of $300 million. Okay. How much did Snow White need to make? Share the box office that the theater pays the studios is unknown, and the trade is a rental fee, and the indication of the typical level comes from the film industry consultant Stephen Follis, who interviewed 1,235 film professionals in 2014 and concluded that according to studios, theaters kept about 49% of the takings on average. So assuming an approximate 50-50 split, that means that Snow White needed to gross at least $427.8 million for Disney to cover its cost at the box office. According to Box Office Mojo, Snow White has so far grossed, $100 million. It would end up landing somewhere in on and around 202 by the time that it's all said and done, because it just creeped over 201. I could imagine, probably before it's all said and done, before it wraps up in every theater, sure, we'll just go ahead and go 202. You're still 200 million, even if we're being exceptionally generous, especially with the international box office, which your take is closer to somewhere between 40 and 25%, depending on the country. So even if you wanted to go and say, what exactly was that number? $427 million. You ended up being $225 million short. And how do you offset that? I'm sure Lilo and Stitch probably, and I'm sure it probably has a little bit more of a reasonable budget than that, will probably end up making up for some of it. But okay, that bread is on the ledger. Okay, those losses are there, and Disney is going to have to go ahead and offset that. And you know what that ends up wiping away? Everything that they made from Deadpool and Wolverine. Per the numbers, Deadpool and Wolverine made $3,117 from 100 North American locations, bringing its final domestic tally yet to $636,745,858 domestically. Coupled with the film's $701,046,064 in international ticket sales, Deadpool and Wolverine made $1.3 billion. We'll just go ahead and run it back. Sorry, the commercial commercial over there in the corner with the goofy kid with the stupid horn-rimmed glasses kind of threw me off there for a second. But yes, $1,337,791,922. The numbers noted against a $200 million production budget before prints and advertising. And even if you want to do just basic movie math, go ahead and throw on another $100 to $150 million, bringing your total budget for the film. Marketing in $350 million. Deadpool and Wolverine ended up making as much money as logically cost the Disney to make and distribute Snow White. Long story short, it's a sad state of affairs in a vacuum, but when you weigh up all of the variables, you got Disney, you got Rachel Zegler, and you got the greed and the creative bankruptcy that Deadpool and Wolverine was, and guess what? You get what you fucking deserve. Good job, Disney. Best of luck with Lilo and Stitch. Gonna be a shame about that Fantastic Four movie. How's that tracking looking? So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.